Hey everyone, ready to dive into a topic that I think we all can relate to.
Yeah, who doesn't want a little more confidence, right?
Exactly. So we got a really interesting excerpt from Testo and Collado from one of you listeners,
Mhm.
and it's all about different ways to build self-confidence.
Like a whole toolbox of strategies.
Yeah, and I'm super curious to hear what our expert thinks about some of these. And listeners, see if any of these are already like part of your own confidence routine.
Right. What are you already doing?
Okay, but before we get all tactical, let's just like define this thing.
Yeah, good point.
What is self-confidence really? Like, is it just about, walking around like you own the place,
Uh-huh. I wish it were that easy.
right?
No, true self-confidence, it's more about like an inner knowing
Hmm.
that you can handle whatever comes your way.
Oh, I like that.
It's that voice that says, I've got this, even when, things get tough.
Yeah, yeah.
And honestly, it affects everything. How you work, your relationships, even like your health.
Wow. Okay, so it's not about being arrogant.
No, not at all.
It's more about like a realistic
Yeah.
view of what you're actually capable of.
And exactly knowing your strengths.
Okay, so one of the techniques that really jumped out at me in this excerpt was positive self-talk.
Yes.
They talk about using affirmations to kind of reframe negative thoughts.
Mhm.
But sometimes those affirmations, I don't know, they can feel a little cheesy.
Yeah, I get that.
Like, are you really supposed to just stand in the mirror and be like, I am amazing?
Right, it can feel forced.
So do you have any tips on making affirmations actually feel, I don't know, more authentic?
You hit the nail on the head. The key is to make them specific and action-oriented.
Oh,
So instead of that generic, I am successful, try something like, I am becoming a more effective communicator.
I like that.
Or even better, tie it to a specific goal. I am confidently preparing for that presentation next week.
So it's like you're not just like wishing for it.
Right.
You're actually backing it up with action,
Exactly. Action and a plan.
which actually leads perfectly into another point in the excerpt,
Okay.
which is all about setting and achieving goals.
Makes sense.
Do you find that achieving even small goals can like have this ripple effect on your overall confidence?
Absolutely. 100%. Every time you set a goal and you achieve it, no matter how small, it reinforces that belief in yourself. Like, I can do this.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember when I was learning to play the piano.
Oh, nice.
I was terrible.
Uh,
But instead of focusing on how far I had to go, I celebrated those little milestones, like mastering a new chord,
Wow.
playing a simple melody without messing up. Those small wins, they kept me going.
yeah,
And eventually, I felt confident enough to tackle harder pieces.
that's such a good point.
It's all about those small wins.
Yeah, and not getting overwhelmed by like the enormity of the whole thing.
Exactly.
You break it down and then you get to celebrate along the way.
It makes the journey more enjoyable, too.
Totally. Okay, now another thing that stood out to me in this excerpt was the emphasis on learning new skills as a way to like boost confidence. How do you see that connection playing out?
Well, I think when you learn new skills, it kind of expands your repertoire of what you're capable of doing, right?
Oh, yeah, it's like the more tools you have,
Exactly.
the more prepared you feel.
Yeah, like you're ready for anything.
Yeah, and even the process of learning itself, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It can be so confidence boosting.
Nothing like that aha moment,
Totally. Like, hey, I can actually do this.
I love that feeling.
Okay, so we've talked about positive self-talk, setting goals, learning new skills. It's like we're building this confidence toolkit.
We are.
What other tools do we need in this kit?
Well, one that I think is so important but often gets overlooked is self-care.
Ooh, yes.
And I'm not just talking about, bubble baths and face masks.
Right. Although
Those are nice.
those are nice.
But it's really about making sure you have the energy, both physical and mental, to show up as your best self.
I love that, but I think a lot of us, we struggle to like actually prioritize self-care,
Oh, for sure.
especially when life gets busy.
Yeah, it's easy to let it slide.
So any practical tips on how to, I don't know, fit it in?
Well, I think the first step is just recognizing that self-care is not selfish.
Okay.
It's essential.
It's like you can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be this huge time commitment either, Even small things like taking 5 minutes to stretch,
Okay.
breathe deeply, listen to your favorite song, or, even a quick walk outside.
I like that. Yeah.
Those little things, they make a difference.
Small deposits in the well-being account.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about nurturing ourselves from the inside out,
Right.
But this excerpt also talks about the importance of our external environment, specifically who we surround ourselves with.
Oh, yes, the company we keep.
Yeah, so how do those relationships actually play into building confidence?
Well, the people we spend time with, they have a huge impact on how we see ourselves.
Oh, for sure.
When you're around people who believe in you, who encourage you, celebrate your wins, offer support when things are tough, it's like having this constant source of, positive reinforcement.
It's like having your own personal cheer squad.
That's a great way to put it.
I remember this one time I was so nervous about a job interview,
Oh, yeah.
and my friend just gave me this pep talk that totally changed my mindset.
I love that.
It was amazing how her belief in me actually helped me believe in myself.
That's powerful.
Yeah. But on the flip side, the excerpt also cautions against the drain of toxic relationships.
Right. Those can really sabotage your confidence.
So how can we spot those relationships and start creating healthier boundaries?
It's a good question. Pay attention to how you feel after spending time with someone.
Oh, that's a good point.
If you consistently feel drained, criticized, or, like you're walking on eggshells. Yeah.
Those are red flags.
Yeah.
It might be time to, reevaluate that relationship and consider setting some boundaries.
So it's all about kind of tuning into those gut feelings and prioritizing our own well-being.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about those pesky negative thoughts that creep in, even when we have a great support system?
Oh, we all have those.
How do we tackle those head on?
That's where the technique of challenging those negative thoughts comes in.
Okay.
One really simple but powerful strategy you can try is to ask yourself, is this thought actually true? Or what evidence do I have to support this belief?
Oh, okay.
A lot of times when we really examine those negative thoughts, we realize they're based on assumptions or past experiences that might not even be relevant anymore.
It's like our brain is playing tricks on us.
Exactly, like an optical illusion.
Yeah, you have to look at it from a different angle.
You got it.
Yeah.
And if those negative thoughts are really persistent,
Yeah.
don't hesitate to reach out for professional help. Oh, yeah. Good point.
Therapists have amazing tools and strategies that can help you manage and overcome those thoughts.
Great point. Now, there's one more technique in this excerpt that I'm really curious about, but I'll admit, I'm a bit of a newbie when it comes to this one.
Oh, okay. Which one?
Mindfulness and meditation.
Yes.
How do those practices, connect to building confidence?
Well, mindfulness is all about being present in the moment without judgment.
Oh.
And when you practice mindfulness, you become more aware of your thoughts and feelings, but you don't get swept away by them.
So it's like instead of getting caught up in all the what ifs and worries, you can just be
You're just there.
in the moment.
Exactly.
And how does that lead to confidence?
Well, that sense of being grounded, of being present, can be incredibly empowering.
Okay.
You're less reactive to things happening around you, and you feel more in control of your own, inner state. And that inner stability, that translates to greater confidence.
Yeah, I can see that, yeah.
Especially in those moments when self-doubt starts to creep in.
Oh, for sure.
You're able to kind of observe those thoughts without letting them take over.
Right.
And meditation, which is a form of mindfulness practice, can really help with this.
Okay.
Even a few minutes each day can help you cultivate a calmer, more focused mind.
Okay, I got to try that.
It's worth experimenting with.
Yeah, this is all making so much sense.
Good, I'm glad.
But before we get too lost in the Zen zone here, I want to shift gears a bit.
Okay.
And talk about something that often trips people up when it comes to self-confidence. What happens when we hit a roadblock? Or experience a setback? How do we keep from spiraling into self-doubt?
It's a great question. And that's where resilience comes in.
Okay.
Setbacks are inevitable, right? They happen to everyone.
Yeah.
But it's how we respond to them that really shapes our confidence.
Okay.
So instead of viewing setbacks as failures, try to reframe them as opportunities
So,
to learn and grow.
So it's about shifting our perspective.
Exactly.
From I messed up to what can I learn from this?
Exactly. Ask yourself, what went wrong? What could I do differently next time? And that way, you can extract valuable lessons even from those challenging experiences.
It's like turning those stumbling blocks into stepping stones.
I love that.
And that mindset shift can be so empowering.
It really can.
But let's be real. Some setbacks, they can be pretty discouraging.
They can.
Any advice on bouncing back from those tougher blows to our confidence?
Sometimes it helps to remind yourself of past challenges that you've overcome,
Mm-hmm.
Think back to a time when you faced a difficult situation and you came out stronger.
Yeah.
It's a powerful reminder of your own resilience and capability.
It's like tapping into that inner reservoir of strength
Yes.
and reminding ourselves that, like, hey, I've done this before.
I can do it again.
Yeah. Speaking of tapping into our inner resources, the excerpt also mentions the importance of facing our fears.
Oh, that's a big one.
Any advice on how to take those sometimes terrifying leaps of faith?
It starts with identifying the fear, What's the one thing you've been avoiding because it makes you uncomfortable or even scared?
Oh, I've got a whole list of those.
Uh-huh.
But, okay, seriously, once you've identified it, what's next?
Break it down. Break the fear down into smaller, manageable steps. Instead of trying to conquer the whole thing at once, just focus on one small action that moves you in the right direction. So, for example, if public speaking is a fear, you could start by practicing in front of a mirror.
Okay.
Then maybe with a friend, and then maybe a small group.
Oh, so you kind of gradually expose yourself to it.
Exactly, at your own pace.
Okay, so it's all about baby steps.
Baby steps.
And building up our courage gradually.
You got it.
And it's okay to feel uncomfortable, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It's part of the process.
Growth happens outside of our comfort zones, right?
I love that. It's like that saying, feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yes. And with each step you take, you'll gain more confidence to face your fears and achieve those goals.
It's like a snowball effect. The more challenges you face, the more your confidence grows.
I love that analogy.
Now, before we move on, I want to circle back to learning new skills.
Okay.
As a way to boost confidence. Any tips for choosing skills that will really, enhance our self-belief?
The most important thing is to choose skills that you're actually interested in, that align with your passions,
Oh, so it's got to be something you're excited about.
Yeah, because when you're genuinely excited about something, you're way more likely to stick with it.
That makes sense.
Even when it gets challenging.
So it's like finding that sweet spot where your interests and potential growth areas kind of intersect.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to step outside of your comfort zone a little bit too. Sometimes the skills that seem the most daunting are the ones that can have the biggest impact on our confidence.
It's like challenging yourself to grow in ways that you never thought possible.
I love that.
Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground already, from nurturing our inner world with self-care and positive self-talk to taking action, like setting goals, facing our fears, expanding our skill sets. It's a lot.
It is.
But before we dive into even more strategies, in the next part of our deep dive, I will leave you with one final thought-provoking question.
Okay, hit me.
If you could give your younger self just one piece of advice about building self-confidence, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a powerful one. Let's explore that question and uncover even more confidence-boosting gems in part 2.
Can't wait.
Welcome back. I've been thinking about that question you asked.
Yeah.
About what advice I'd give my younger self. And honestly, it would be to stop comparing myself to others.
Oh, that's so relatable.
Right.
It's so easy to fall into that trap.
Especially now with social media. It's like constant comparison.
It's everywhere you look.
And it's just a recipe for self-doubt.
Yeah.
Because when you're always focused on what other people are doing or what they have, you totally miss out on appreciating your own unique strengths and what you've accomplished.
Yeah, it's like trying to, fit a square peg in a round hole.
Exactly.
We're all different, and that's what makes us, us.
I love that. Embrace your unique shape.
Okay, so back to our confidence toolkit from Testo and Collado.
Okay.
Before the break, we were starting to talk about mindfulness and meditation. And I'm still a little fuzzy on how being present, actually translates to more confidence.
Okay, I can see that.
Can you, connect those dots a little more?
Yeah, sure. Think of your mind like a computer, right?
Okay.
When you have a million programs running at once, it slows everything down.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Mindfulness is like closing those unnecessary programs so you can focus on what really matters.
So it's about quieting all that mental chatter.
Exactly. When you're present, you're not stuck dwelling on past mistakes.
Right.
Or worrying about the future. You're fully engaged in what's happening right now.
And how does that make us more confident?
Well, when you're present, you have access to all your inner resources,
Okay.
It's like you can think more clearly, make decisions more confidently.
I like that.
It's all about being in the moment.
Okay, so meditation, I've tried it a few times.
Yeah.
And, my mind just won't shut up. Any tips for a total newbie?
Oh, yeah. That's normal. It's a practice, not a performance.
Okay.
The key is to be curious and non-judgmental.
Yep,
So instead of trying to like force your mind to be blank, just notice your thoughts as they come up.
Okay.
Like imagine them as clouds passing by.
Okay.
And when your mind wanders, which it will,
Oh, it does.
just gently guide it back to your breath or whatever you're focusing on.
So it's more about acknowledging those thoughts and letting them go
Yeah, exactly.
than like trying to fight them.
Yeah.
I think that makes a lot more sense.
And, you know, the more you practice, the easier it gets.
Okay.
And eventually, you'll create more space between your thoughts and your reactions. And that self-awareness, that can be incredibly empowering.
It's like you're building a muscle.
You are.
Like choose how you respond
Yeah.
instead of just reacting.
Yes. And that sense of control, it boosts your confidence.
Okay, that makes sense. So we talked about being around positive people.
Right.
But what about those relationships that aren't so supportive?
Oh, the tough ones.
Yeah. Sometimes those are unavoidable, like family or coworkers.
I hear that.
Any advice on navigating those situations?
You can't control other people's behavior.
True.
But you can control your own reactions. And boundaries are key. So you might need to limit your time with those people.
Okay.
Communicate your needs clearly. Or even just like choose not to engage in conversations that are draining.
So it's about like protecting your own energy. But setting boundaries, it can be so tough.
It can be.
Especially with people you care about.
It's true. But remember, you deserve to be treated with respect.
That's a good point.
And sometimes setting boundaries, it's the most loving thing you can do.
Okay, that's a good way to look at it. So let's go back to positive self-talk.
Right.
I know some people find affirmations a bit cheesy, hard to believe.
I get that.
Any tips on making them feel more, I don't know, genuine?
Make them specific and action-oriented. Instead of saying, I'm successful, try something like, I am consistently taking steps to achieve my goals.
Oh, I like that.
It's about connecting your words to tangible actions.
So it was like you're saying, I believe in myself, and here's the proof.
Exactly.
Now, we've talked a lot about the mental game of confidence, but does our physical environment matter too?
Absolutely. Your surroundings can really impact your mood and motivation.
Okay.
Creating a space that's supportive and inspiring can actually boost your confidence.
So it's not just about what's going on inside,
Right.
but also the environment we're in.
Yeah, it all works together.
So it's like setting the stage for success.
I like that, setting the stage.
So like, what would that look like? Like decluttering your workspace?
Yeah, decluttering, surrounding yourself with things that inspire you, like motivational quotes or images, even adding some plants for a touch of nature.
It's like creating your own little confidence sanctuary.
I love that.
Okay, back to goals for a sec. We've talked about setting and achieving them.
Right.
But what happens when we hit those inevitable setbacks? How do we stay confident then?
Instead of seeing setbacks as failures, reframe them as opportunities to learn and grow.
Okay, there's that reframing again.
It's a powerful tool. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I adjust my approach moving forward?
So it's about having that growth mindset.
Yes. It's not, I'm not good at this. It's, I can learn and improve.
Okay, I see the difference. That's a much more empowering way to think about it.
And remember, setbacks happen to everyone. It's part of the journey. The key is to develop resilience, that ability to bounce back and keep going.
It's like that saying, fall 7 times, stand up 8.
I love that.
Every time you get back up, you build a little more resilience, a little more confidence.
You get stronger.
Now, speaking of overcoming obstacles,
Yeah.
the excerpt also talks about facing our fears.
Uh,
This is something I think a lot of us really struggle with.
yeah, it's tough.
So any advice on taking those first steps?
Start by identifying the specific fear that's holding you back.
Right.
Really pinpoint it. And then ask yourself, what's the worst case scenario? Sometimes when you bring those fears out into the open, they lose some of their power.
It's like those monsters under the bed when you were a kid.
Exactly. Turn on the light and they disappear.
Yeah. Okay, so once you've identified the fear, what then?
Break it down into smaller steps. Instead of trying to conquer the whole thing at once, focus on one small action you can take.
So it's like gradually exposing yourself to the fear, but in a safe and controlled way.
Yes. And remember, it's okay to feel uncomfortable.
Okay.
Growth happens outside of that comfort zone.
Oh, I like that. Okay, we've covered so much ground already. Mindfulness and meditation, setting boundaries, facing our fears.
Oh, yeah, get it busy.
But there's one more thing I want to explore before we wrap up this part.
Okay, what's that?
The importance of celebrating our wins.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Do you have any advice on how to make that a regular part of our, confidence-building routine?
It's so important. We often get so caught up in reaching the next goal that we forget to celebrate what we've already achieved.
So it's about pausing and giving ourselves credit.
Exactly. No matter how big or small the win, it reinforces our belief in ourselves.
And it keeps us motivated.
Exactly. So how do we make it more intentional? Well, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. It could be just taking a few minutes to reflect on what you've accomplished. Maybe write about it in a journal or share your success with a friend or colleague.
Yeah.
The key is to really acknowledge those positive feelings that come with achieving a goal.
It's like giving yourself a pat on the back and saying, hey, good job, we did it.
Yes, you deserve it.
Now, before we move on to the final part of our deep dive,
Okay.
I have one last question for you.
Hit me.
If you could sum up the essence of building self-confidence in just one sentence, what would it be?
Ooh, one sentence. Okay, let me see. I think the essence of building self-confidence is about cultivating a deep and unwavering belief in your own ability to learn, grow, and overcome challenges.
Wow, that's powerful and so to the point.
Right.
And I think it captures everything we've been talking about.
It all comes down to believing in yourself.
Okay, before we move on to the final part, where we'll explore even more strategies for building that unshakable self-belief,
I'm excited for that.
let's just take a moment to reflect on that powerful statement. You have everything you need within you to achieve your goals and to live a life that's, full of purpose and joy.
Yes. So true. Welcome back. It feels like we've already covered so much.
I know, right? But we still have more confidence-boosting goodness to unpack.
We do.
Okay, so we've talked about a growth mindset, mindfulness, setting boundaries, all these great tools. But there's one more piece I want to explore.
Okay.
And that's the role of self-compassion.
Self-compassion.
Yeah.
Such an important part of building real, lasting self-confidence.
I agree.
It's about treating ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we would offer a close friend,
It's funny because I think that's where a lot of us really struggle.
Yeah, I agree.
We're so much harder on ourselves.
It's true. We're often our own worst critics.
Exactly. We set these impossibly high standards, and then we beat ourselves up when we don't meet them.
Exactly. But imagine for a second how you'd respond to a friend who is going through a similar challenge. Would you be criticizing them, judging them?
No, of course not.
Or would you offer support and encouragement?
I'd be supportive, for sure.
Exactly. And that's the essence of self-compassion. It's about extending that same kindness to ourselves.
Right.
Acknowledging that we're all human, we all mess up sometimes,
Right.
and it's okay.
It's like giving ourselves permission to be imperfect.
Yes. And to learn and grow from our experiences.
So how do we actually practice self-compassion? Like, what does that look like in those moments when we're feeling down on ourselves?
One really simple but effective technique is to talk to yourself the way you would talk to a friend.
Okay.
So instead of that inner voice saying, ugh, I'm so stupid for making that mistake.
Yeah, we all have that voice.
We do. Try saying something like, hey, it's okay. Everyone makes mistakes. What can I learn from this?
So it's about replacing the critic with, like, a more supportive friend.
Exactly. Another powerful technique is to practice mindfulness and do things that soothe you.
Okay.
When you're feeling stressed or overwhelmed, take a few minutes to engage in an activity that brings you joy.
Okay.
Like listening to music, taking a bath, or even just spending time in nature.
It's like giving ourselves a little mental hug.
I love that. A mental hug.
Okay, so we've talked about self-compassion, but what about dealing with criticism from others?
That's a good one. Well, it's important to learn to discern constructive criticism from negativity.
Okay, so how do we tell the difference?
Constructive criticism, even when it's not delivered in the best way, it can actually be helpful. It gives you feedback that can help you improve.
So it's about focusing on the message, not necessarily the messenger.
Exactly. But when it comes to pure negativity, especially if it's a personal attack or just meant to tear you down,
Right.
the best thing you can do is just disengage.
Oh, like don't even let it in.
Exactly. You don't have to absorb other people's negativity. Remember, your self-worth comes from within.
It's like that saying, what other people think of you is none of your business.
I love that.
This has been such an amazing deep dive.
It has.
We've covered so much ground. Growth, mindset, mindfulness, setting boundaries, embracing our imperfections, self-compassion. Wow.
It's a lot, but it all comes back to that core belief in yourself.
So true. And remember, it's not about mastering every single technique. It's about finding what works for you
Yeah, what resonates with you?
and creating your own personalized confidence toolkit.
Exactly. Your own unique journey.
Okay, so before we say goodbye, I want to leave everyone with one final thought.
All right, I'm ready.
Imagine yourself a year from now, radiating confidence and living your best life. What steps did you take during that year to get there? What challenges did you overcome? What new skills did you learn? And most importantly, how did you treat yourself along the way?
That's a powerful visualization. Remember, you have everything you need within you to achieve your goals and live a life filled with purpose and joy.
So true.
Believe in yourself, embrace the journey, and never stop growing.
Until next time, keep shining.